So tonight we're going to start with our 3 minutes of silence. So welcome officially to everyone. I want to especially hold Donna in prayer. I think she mentioned to the group last week that Ernie was coming home, and that was happening today. So you probably won't see her tonight, but I wanted to make sure we lift Donna in prayer. And then also Carol Ann, they're in the middle of a move and it's all good stuff. So she sends her love and blessings and we'll watch later. Also, Micah could not make it tonight. She's a volunteer at hospice. Anyway, so all is well with those individuals, but I want to lift them up, especially Donna and Ernie, because this is a big transition with Ernie moving home, and prayers for divine order and that they can get all the support they need. That said, if there's ever any specific prayer you want me to hold with you or for you, feel free to text, call, email. It's always my honor and privilege to do that. So tonight we're going to begin with just our 3 minutes of silence, as we often do, and then I'll go right into the message. And then, of course, there'll be plenty of time for you to share, and we'll end with our meditation. And as always, if you have not had enough time today for yourself, make sure you breathe a little bit deeper and try to make those breaths a little bit longer and see if your body can relax and you can, go within for a minute and really get to center and find peace for yourself. So we will begin our 3 minutes of silence now. So we take time now to set our intention. Getting clear about what our purpose is, who we are, clarity on who we want to be in the world. Taking time to give thanks also for all the spiritual support we are receiving. And I affirm for each of us that we are guided and guarded, we are safe, we are blessed, that all is truly well with our soul. And so it is. Amen. Well, tonight's topic, Sean, you want to put up the slide there just so everybody can see it? Wisdom of the Wild, and tonight is butterflies. And it's actually, I'm including a little bit of information about insects because it's something that we, don't talk a lot about. And in this series all month, we are looking more deeply at the natural world. I feel like this bears repeating simply because so much of the way life is set up now, we can easily be out of touch with the natural world. And what we're seeking to do is not only find balance with that, more time in nature, but also looking for what are those signs, symbols, sounds, what are those ways that spirit speaks to us. And so as a way of introduction tonight, I wanted to take some time to talk about what I'm meaning when I say some of these things. Like, what does it mean to look at the archetypal, right? I think I mentioned that last week that, or maybe I didn't, I'm not sure, but that we are looking for the symbolic meaning. And so, in nature, everything, well, first of all, let me say this. Everything in nature is its own archetypal pattern, and it knows what to do simply because of what's within it, like its divine complexity. And you and I have a divine complexity as well. And so what we're seeking to do is see how the complexity of the animal world, or in this case, the insect world, which butterflies are a part of, how do those intersect with us and our patterning and what we're trying to learn. And so my training is both in metaphysics, which is to look at what is the meaning of the thing itself, and the archetypal, which is also saying basically what is the God within this being. And then in other words, we're looking at it objectively. What is this thing in the world? Then it becomes subjective, where we are looking for the symbolic meaning of what they are, who they are, and its symbolic meaning in our lives. So what all of us tend to do is anthropomorphize animals, which means give them human characteristics. We did this with God as well, because we're human and we're seeking to see ourselves in it. So this is not a bad thing, but we simply want to be conscious that sometimes we're assigning meaning. Like, you hear these stories all the time, like people thought that bear was cute and died in the process. You hear these stories, and yes, the bear is cute, but the bear is wild. And so people have given too many human-like characteristics to the bear, because there are a lot of similarities to how humans eat, gather food, and things like that. But they're not human. That said, there has, in the indigenous peoples of the world, they have always looked at the natural world as teacher, as friend, as helper, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the insect world, and then as a way of introduction, to have us be thinking about it, because I know that I know I've never heard a single talk on insects, and maybe there's a reason for that. But I think that I've seen nothing give somebody a more immediate reaction than an insect. I was just in kind of out in the wild and had some firsthand experiences over the last few days. One of which was not a insect; it was a water moccasin where I was swimming, but that was another thing. Even though somebody tried to convince me it wasn't, I'm like, yep, snake in the water coming my way. Sure looks like a moccasin, so we're out. But I wanted to look at a few insects to kind of get us thinking this direction. And the first one I thought we should start with is a praying mantis. So Sean's going to show you. Here's one image. And the praying mantis, yeah, hold that one there for a minute, Sean, has long been a symbol of the mystical. And it was interesting. I was at a church retreat. This is, I don't know, probably 30 years ago. And all weekend we kept seeing this praying mantis. And I'd never seen one in the wild that I had remembered. I'd seen walking sticks, you know, those little critters that look like sticks, you know. But I didn't think I'd ever seen a praying mantis. And what was the retreat on? Take one guess. Anybody want to say it? What was it on? We're looking at a praying mantis. Yep. Mary's going, prayer. Exactly. So, yeah, so think about, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but on this particular one, but think about this, what we're speaking of, the archetypal or the symbolic meaning relating to this image. Notice its big eyes. Notice its, you know, its hands in prayer. Yeah. So this one might be fairly simple for you. So the next one that I want to talk a few minutes about is the spider. And spider for Native Americans is considered both grandmother and creator. And the spider is a symbol of new energies. And what does it do? It weaves a web. So it's considered very, very magical, very creative. You know, it's like literally creates out of itself. And so in part of my tradition, I learned, and I'm not sure if any of you know, part of my career before, I made Native American hand drums. I meant to bring one. Maybe I'll show you one in a moment. It's nearby. Actually, I'm going to get it right now. I'm just going to get it right now. Sorry. One sec. I want to show you this because the teacher I learned from, can you see the back of this? So the head and the drum, so this piece, this is one continuous piece that I cut out of a really large hide. This is elk hide. And when we were first starting it, the teacher said, if you see a spider, you know it's a great day to make a drum and ask for the spider energy to move in and through you. And this is what I created. And so if I was going to go make a drum, like I started, it's interesting, when I was working at Unity Village, I would do a retreat and I'd play this drum and people would inevitably say, oh my gosh, you know, where did you get that? And I would say, I made it. Do you make them? Yes. So that's how that started. And so when my son was little, I was teaching him, okay, if you see a spider, it's a great day to make a drum. We've got one waiting, but we're not going to make one until we see a spider because we want to call on that creative energy. Now, could I have made it on another day? Yes, I could have. But a part of that tradition is to be in alignment with nature's energy with you. So A spider is another powerful image. So then dragonflies are another, and I thought what I was hoping in this sharing is you might share if you had any experiences, personal experiences with these. But dragonflies have long been considered also to be bringers of light or even doorways to the fairy realms. And if the idea of a fairy realm is a little much for you, no big deal. Let it go. But there are some people that really do connect with that idea in that realm. And so again, in all these we've mentioned so far, think about what is the God within this being in and of itself. What is the God within this being in and of itself? And our idea is to learn the qualities, often what it eats, what it drinks, what its prey is, what its predator is even. Okay, good. And now, Sean, just that way, this way you can quit sharing after you show the butterfly image as well. I wanted them to see that. Or is that just the video? Okay, yeah, that's just the video. Okay, all right. So we'll take a break from that just for a moment, just so we can see each other a little bit better. And then you can bring it back just in a moment, if that's okay. Yeah. So in the study of the butterfly, this one has been extremely important in my journey. And I thought it was interesting that as I was hiking up in the mountains this weekend, they were everywhere all around. It was the time of year, beautiful blooms, and it was very, very magical. Well, when I was deep in my study at Unity Village, I had a couple of choice points in my life I had to make. One was to continue to move forward on my ministerial path, and the other was to release a relationship that was just not healthy for me. And so I did my long walk, 3.5-mile trail at Unity Village with my dog, as I did every day. And I was asking for a sign. And as I walked that initial kind of, quarter mile, all of these butterflies all of a sudden were all around me. Okay, well, I know the butterfly is a symbol of transformation, of metamorphosis, of release, of one old way into a new way. And the question was, is this really right to change my career? Asking for affirmation, even though I'd been very guided. It's funny because I talked about that earlier today in the podcast recording. And then the second was about this relationship. I just felt it was not healthy and was not good for me, but I didn't know what was next. And I got the butterfly. I said, that's it. And I was sharing this with a friend, and she goes, are you really telling me that you're making these decisions based on a butterfly? And I said, yep. I said, because the butterflies were not on anybody else. They were just on me. And they were not around my dog. They were just around me. It's like we've been saying last week. And we have been saying the last couple of weeks, that when this animal comes to you, there's a very specific energy it has. So there's so much from the butterfly. And the reason I wanted to talk a little bit about the insects is it was interesting for me to relearn this. I had forgotten this, that there were 6 qualities that make something an insect. Like they fly, they have, adaptable to climate, they have skeletal protection, they're small, they reproduce. But the most important one for our discussion is the 6th quality, which is they have the ability to transform, that they go through a metamorphosis. That is part of being an insect, which I had forgotten. And so the butterfly, we know, does not start as a butterfly, right? It starts as what? A caterpillar, right? And then goes through this chrysalis process, and on the other side, finally emerges into the beautiful thing that we see. And so in my journey, in praying on this and thinking about this and studying this, it's so clear to me that the butterfly has long been a sign of change and transformation, even transmutation, because the old is released. And the only way the new comes forth is if the old is released. And you guys know I talk about change. Change is inevitable. And what I've noticed about life and working with clients so long, when we resist change, it almost becomes dangerous to us. Like, I've had people talk to me about medical issues. They've had the issues for years and never done anything about it. And then it gets to the crisis point and they go, well, it's too late. In other words, they were not willing to change their mind or their consciousness to grow. And so that lack of being willing to change has created a like a reversal rather than a healing. Like it's created an illness instead of a healing. And so for me, this insect is, I know we don't think of a butterfly as an insect, but it really is. And so for me, studying its phases are so much like the human phases. Like the caterpillar works to strengthen itself because it just feeds and feeds and feeds and feeds, and it creates this foundation. And to me, for us, this is what? This is ideas. This is creativity. This is where our skills get shaped and honed. And then, as the foundation is set, that's when the chrysalis begins. And that chrysalis is like this cocooning around itself. And it's amazing, the intelligence. And so for me, this is us going inward for a while. When Carol Ann reached out and said, I can't come. And I said, you're living the message. It's okay. So she's been working on what? She's moving. So she's been working on this new foundation. That's the working. That's the feeding. That's the creating for her next steps. Everything has to be, the ground has to be prepared. The space has to be set. And then that cocooning time is that time of going inward. I don't know if all of you on here have had kids. I think most of you have had kids or have family you're really close to. And when a baby comes home, it's like, what do? It's like you protect it, you hold it, right? Because this is new life that's starting to emerge. This is the same as the cocoon for me. And so then finally, after the chrysalis, this final form starts to come forward. But it's interesting because all of these stages have like hard work involved in them. And as humans, we always want everything to be easy. I'm sure if I said, who wants it to be easy? We'd all go, yeah, that would be me. 2 hands way up. But what I learned from the study of the butterfly is, without the struggle, the butterfly does not develop. And I had a friend tell me he was in the woods. This is a true story. And he saw this butterfly struggling and tried to help it. And of course, we should know by now to let nature be nature, let life be life. But it couldn't make it. And even if you touch the wings of a butterfly, it's very damaging right to it. So you can't interrupt the struggle because the struggle is what makes it develop. And I thought, but my goodness, I have a whole different idea of my struggle right now with this idea. It was interesting too, because I was coming off this family time, and the time with family for me is always a very rich in its meaning, its connection to my family's past. If you go to the Welcome Center in Hot Springs, it's all about my great-grandmother. It's just, there's so much family history, the family graves that are there. And one of the people that's buried there is someone who was very hurtful to me, as a youngster. And so I was standing there and I thought, and by the way, we had a big forgiveness moment, and it was up there. I was able to forgive him before he died, and he died like within a year after. And I thought to myself as I was standing there, somehow the complexity of what life was, how I moved through that, and where I am now was all a part of some divine plan, even though I still cannot understand it with my human mind. I have got to trust that somehow that struggle was a part of who I am today. And it's helped me somehow become the person that I am. And so that gave me a lot of meaning. So, all that said, even as the butterfly emerges, there are moments of rest and reflection in the new energy. And as I looked at it again for you all tonight, it was really touching to see how the divine process of growth is within all of us, but it is up to us to kind of trust it and, work it and then rest, and then work it and then rest, and then time inward, and then time to transform again into our next beautiful self. So this is my hope for all of us, that the butterfly can teach us to set our foundation. And it's hard work. I feel like as a country right now, we're trying to set a new foundation in the midst of total chaos. I feel like we are also needing to go inward as well, to have times of rest. And I feel like that struggle, that we're in right now is that something new is trying to come forward. So this is true for us individually, but also true for the collective. And if I can remember all this and that change is inevitable, that can give me a great deal of peace. Well, the thing that, too, I don't want any of you to minimize, I always want to kind of help us see that sometimes that smallest step, like Anna was saying, I had a moment this morning. I'm not totally ready to talk about it, but suffice to say that it felt like some old layer was releasing, and it was no one else, may notice it, but my feeling experience on the other side of that is very different. And I know over the next days, weeks, months, I'm going to move more into that energy, but I'm just grateful if I can release one old thought that is unlike where spirit wants me to go, whether it's shifting my language or how I feel about myself or carrying body shame or, whatever. And for the first time, I have just a little, I'll say, I don't want to minimize it. I have a real freedom I haven't felt before. And it's so new, I'm a little scared to talk about it because it just has not, I haven't gotten to rest in that newness yet. So I just hope you'll honor yourself in your process. And because the noise of the world is so loud, it's so easy to miss those little successes that happen, in the spiritual world and in the mind and heart of you. So I just want to lift that up and honor that and the work that I know all of you are doing, because you're all good souls. You're all trying to see things from the highest perspective. You're doing your part. You're out in the world and you're being good to your families and, everything else. So I just honor each of you for that, and just hope that you'll honor yourself in your process, that, change happens. Some of it's inevitable. And how do we move through it with grace, even when there's struggle, but to just honor even the smallest way that you are growing is so, so important. And I honor you in it. Yeah. Sean, will you show the video? I'm going to turn up my light while you do it. It's a great short little video. I've watched it several times. And it's in silence. There's no music. Nice. Thank you. Beautiful. So I will share my screen just because we like the nature sounds and do our meditation. So we move into this time. Take a few deep breaths. So as we breathe in the simplicity and yet complexity of the idea that the universe lives in me. The universe is guiding me, and yet I have choice. As we breathe, we are mindful of our journey. Acknowledging the fact that we have made good choices to ride this wave of change, to rest, to rejuvenate, to grow. So we take a moment now simply to rest, to be at peace, and to have faith in the process, our process of growth, transformation, and metamorphosis. Allow yourself to remember your process of growth and see it with kind eyes, honoring the struggle that you may have felt. And in that struggle, the growth that happened. Honoring every aspect of the journey, the foundation, the time within, the change, the struggle, the transformation. Look at your process with kind and loving eyes, honoring every stage of your growth and development. Also honoring the divine order of your life path. What has happened, the choices you've made, all of it. Honoring yourself in this. Claiming your divine order, that golden through line that is guiding you. And notice how love of God, love of learning, love of trying to be the best spiritual being you can be has guided that process. So rest a few moments in that as you honor yourself and all of your choices to grow and to evolve. Remembering about yourself and your soul that there is a divine order present. We remember to honor this and to ask for guidance for next steps as we seek to grow and transform again. So take a moment now, asking if there is any next step you need to take, trusting that if you don't get the word now, you will be guided in the right and perfect time. So take a moment to affirm, I am guided by the whole universe. That my soul journey is like a perfectly guided and informed move. We affirm that we are changing on a deep, deep level, at the level of the mind, the heart, and the soul. That as we change, the new self is emerging. And so in this time, we give thanks to the natural world for showing us these divine patterns, these archetypal patterns to help show us how to grow and expand in consciousness, how to live a life of purpose and peace. So we take one final moment now to give thanks, sending our energy to the natural world, thanking them for showing themselves to us and being in right relationship. So for this time of gathering, of support, of learning, of seeking to expand our consciousness and awareness, we are grateful and we are blessed. And I affirm for each of us that we are guided and guarded by the Holy Spirit. We are loved. We are safe. We are blessed. And so it is. Amen. Blessings, my dear friends. Can't wait to hear your stories of the natural world next week. I have a feeling there will be some visits. Love you all. Have a great week.